What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to Marshall Time, episode 68. A long time no see, everybody. It's been a long time, bro. I think the first round of the playoffs was the last time we did an episode. A lot has changed for your boy. When we last recorded, I wasn't a I was a father, but not officially. My baby boy wasn't born yet, but he's now here on the earth. He's healthy. Shout out to Christopher Liam Anthony Marshall. He is here. And that explains the delay. Having a newborn baby is a lot. No sleep and trying to adjust to a schedule. As you can see, I had to go into a common area at our spot just to avoid any crying noises or whatever. So, but we here, we back. We're gonna figure this thing out. Try to be more consistent with our episodes. But that explains the delay. Thank you guys for for waiting and being patient. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, bro? Yes, an exciting time.
Yeah.
Get to be an uncle again for the
Yes,
third
sir.
time. It's what's up. Just want
God
to say
dad too.
congrats. Yeah, yeah, God, Dad. Just want to say congrats to you, man. It's awesome, special thing for you. So happy for you and Bree. So proud of y'all. So yeah,
Well, since we've last recorded, we have a new champion, the Thunder. I'm happy about that. That was one of my teams that I really was praising and enjoying watching. And so I'm glad that they got the job done. We have the draft, we have the free agency, so we got a lot to talk about. And today we're going to start a series pretty much you can call it state of the team. We're going to go division by division and address each team's offseason and their outlook for the next year, the next couple of years, honestly, just projecting where we see them right now, today, and where they could be tomorrow. But first, we got to tackle some headlines really quick. A couple of big news that have happened in the NBA over the last couple of days, few days, a week or so. One of the biggest ones we can address first is the Kevin Durant trade to the Houston Rockets. Didn't come as a surprise. The Phoenix situation is kind of like, you know, it ran its course. And the Suns had to figure out, okay, does KD want to be here or not? The answer obviously, was no. Um, and what is the best course of action for the franchise? How do we get KD to a spot? How do we get back what we want? Um, Whether or not it works out for Phoenix, I don't know. We'll talk about that at a later date. But the Houston Rockets, now they're a legitimate contender in the NBA. You're joining a roster that has Alfred Sengun, Amin Thompson, one of the rising stars in this NBA, the veteran Fred Van Vliet. You're able to keep guys like Cam Whitmore, Tari Eason. A big summer for Reed Shepard coming up. A big season coming up for Reed Shepard. He's going to get an opportunity to find his place on that roster. He was a very high pick last year. And so I think a lot of expectations from that organization on Reed Shepard. And for KD, you have a roster now that has some young guys who can sort of learn from you and thrive off your energy and your experience. And for KD, you are the guy at the end of the game. There's no question about it. When it comes to late second, on the shot clock, late game situations, you're the guy. You have the experience. You're a champion. You've made big shots. This is your time. This is your chance um, to continue to remind people about who you are and what you do in this league. And so I'm excited to see what KD does with this opportunity. I'm excited to see how Houston grows. Those young guys grow with this opportunity. And so, yeah, I think Houston is a contender. They added Dorian Finney-Smith. They added Clint Capella. So yeah, they're shoring up. This roster is pretty deep, I feel like. And so if those guys that I mentioned, the younger guys, step up, I think Houston is going to be a force.
yeah, that's an A+ move for Houston, man. I mean, I know they had to give up, Dylan Brooks, who was a good piece for them this past year. Jalen Green, a young guy with potential, but he's too inconsistent at this point in his career. To me, it was a no-brainer to go get KD because that's what they're missing, right?
Mhm.
We saw they're a young team, young talented team, well coached. They played well in the regular season, but came up short in the postseason, and that's due to the fact they don't have that solidified star slash scorer that can take them over the hump, during these games where the game starts to slow down and you need a tough bucket. And who better to bring than KD? And it's a good move for KD's side of things too. He gets to go to a team where I think this is like really good for his legacy. It's like they're not a super team that we know we see him, try to form ever since he left OKC. He's going from team to team trying to form these crazy trios or duos or whatever you want to call it. But now it's a team that's like, yes, they have talent, but you wouldn't call them a super team. And it's a chance for him to really show, leadership skills and, prove to, all of the doubters that, he can, maybe lead a team, and win a championship as the leader, as the guy. That's the only thing that's been, staying in his legacy for the past few years now. So it's a good opportunity for him. I know he has connections with Roy Ivy, who's on this staff, DJ Augustine, who's on this staff. Emily Udoka, who is a good coach, he's good for bringing culture, creating culture at different teams. So this is going to be good for him. I just want, I just hope that, they stay healthy. And like you said, man, they got a lot of young talent that, it's their time to step up. Reed Shepard being one. They just gave Jabari Smith, a new contract. So
Yep.
hopefully he can, continue to expand on his game. Same with Thompson too, man. It's exciting because they get to learn from, arguably the best scorer ever and get to just lock in with him when it comes to shooting and rhythm and scoring, without the ball, scoring, getting easy buckets, free throw shooting, all the little nuances of the game that some of these young guys might struggle with. They're learning from like a mastermind and a guy who's dedicated to his craft. So that's going to be good for their development too. So I'm excited to see how it all pans out for them.
Yeah, Min Thompson's development, continued, development, and Reed Shepard, to me, those are the two guys who can really swing this thing and make them. I mean, they're already obviously on paper a force, but those two guys specifically, especially Reed Shepard, with what we saw in Kentucky, being able to shoot the rock, being able to play out of that pick and roll, being able to learn from a Fred VanVleet, right? You got VanVleet starting at the point guard, but if Reed Shepard can be sort of that, because that's my only question mark outside of Fred VanVleet, who's your PG, right? Who's a guy that you can rely on? Because we saw in Indiana having a Ryan Nimhard, having a TJ McConnell, having those type of guys outside of a Therese Halliburton to really be a presence and being able to attack a defense and just being able to just the defense have to account for those guys, right? And so if Reed Shepard can be a threat out there, it gets really spooky. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Next headline, Dame, I think was a shocking move for the Milwaukee Bucks to waive him. And it's not all bad news for Dame, right? Because you can question whether or not he wanted to be in Milwaukee in the first place, right? So, I think we talked about that when the trade first happened, but they're still going to pay him. They're stretching out his salary. So he's no longer on the roster, but he's on that payroll. So salute to Dane for his service in Milwaukee. I know it ended unfortunate with the Achilles injury. He was going to miss the most of next year for Milwaukee anyway. But they look at it like, what if a contender is able to pick him up and a half year rental for a playoff run? Who knows what type of threat Dame can be, not having to be a number one or even a two option, but maybe a three or four option, but depending on the team, right? Who knows what might happen with Dame when it comes to that situation. Um, but for me, I look at it like this. I never believed in the Dame Giannis situation anyway. I wasn't totally sold on it. And I think for Milwaukee and Giannis, I think they're playing around. I just think they're delaying the inevitable, right? So for Giannis, he's a champion, he's a competitor. He wants to compete for a championship, but it's the Bucks. Will it get any better than what it got a few years ago when they won the championship with Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday and those guys? I don't think it will. And so for Giannis, you can't have it both ways. Either you're going to stick it out and can try your best to rally these guys, a roster that has Kyle Kuzma, they just signed Miles Turner, Bobby Portis, a roster that I don't think is good enough. And I don't think Milwaukee has the ability to make it any better at this point. What assets do you have as trading pieces to improve this roster, right? And so they got to make a decision, both the front office and Giannis. Who's going to make that decision to say, okay, we have to end this because the way that we're going, we got our championship. We're thankful for that. But you got to be realistic. Are we selling dreams, hopes, and dreams to these fans? or are we just trying to sell tickets? Now, business wise for Milwaukee, you're trying to sell tickets at this point. And so I get it. It's not just simple as trade Giannis. Giannis is a top three player in this league. So it's not easy for you to just say, let's just trade Giannis and we'll figure it out on the back end. No, Milwaukee, you're not a major market when it comes to the NBA. You got to sell those tickets. Giannis is still a major draw. You have Giannis, you're still competing for a playoff spot. And so I think they're just in an interesting spot now where you're not competing for a championship, yet you still have a great player in the middle of his prime. And so for Milwaukee, I just I'm confused at the direction that they're thinking. Where do you think this is going? That's how I see Milwaukee. I don't whether or not you waive Dame or you don't waive Dame, my stance on Milwaukee doesn't change. Even if Dame was going to play next year healthy, I still don't think this team is going anywhere. That's my thought.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It was just a shock because it's like, they brought Dame, to pair with Giannis, to try to try to
Mm-hmm.
compete for a title, but now, we go for the fact that Dame's not going to be there for most of the season next year, right? He's only getting older, so even when he comes back, it's going to be like, are we still really going to be contending?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. The only thing that sucks for them is like the East is going to be kind of open next year. So like you wish that Dame was healthy and that you guys did have an adequate roster to go ahead and compete. But I think this is just the first sign of Giannis is on his way out and they're just trying to position themselves for that time to be here because that's what it's looking for. And it's crazy because from like an X's and O's standpoint, you lose Brook Lopez, but Miles Turner kind of plays like Brook Lopez in terms of being able to protect the rim and stretch the floor at the same time. This is what you need. What you need like next to Giannis. But their team as a whole, just the rest of that team, rest of that five, it's just not it. So yeah, it was just a shocking move. But for Dame, it's good for him because, like you said, he's going to be able to go to any team that really wants him and he's willing to play for, it. And he's still getting paid out, which is the good thing too. Shout out to
Mm-hmm.
the NBA guaranteed contract.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be interesting to see where he ends up. I already seen reports about the Warriors reached out to him, the Lakers reached out to him, the Celtics reached out to him. I
Yeah.
mean, realistically, any team that's in position and trying to win is going to reach out to him because it's not gonna cost you much most likely, and it's like it's Dame. He's a star player. He can shoot. Even if he's not what he was when he was younger, he's still better than majority of the league from
Right.
what we've seen from him, even in his time in Milwaukee. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see where he ends up at.
Yeah. We'll see. I just um, looking at their depth chart on ESPN right now. Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., Kyle Kuzma, AJ Green, Torian Prince. Like these are names, guys that I mean, shout out to Gary Trent. I like Gary Trent, Jr.'s game, but a backcourt of Kevin Porter Jr. and Gary Trent Jr., even in a wide open Eastern Conference, it's just that's not a playoff backcourt in the East. It's just
Nah,
not.
especially with these teams getting better, certain
Yeah,
teams
like
getting better. Nah,
so. And Kyle Kuzma, I don't really gotta say much about that. I just don't think he displays winning basketball habits, and that's not a shot. It's just reality. If you watch the games and you know the history of a Kyle Kuzma, like he's a talented player, but that doesn't often equate to winning basketball, right? And so you're on this roster. Like, is he the second best player on this roster? I mean, he's a top three player on this roster, right? Like,
sadly,
I mean, is he not? I mean,
yeah.
and so when you're telling me Kyle Kuzma is a top three guy on your roster, I got to look at you sideways. Like, okay, am I believing in this? Like, I got to question my basketball knowledge if I'm really buying into that, and I just can't. Next story from our evolving, ever revolving scripts of comedy, the LA Lakers. And I've been waiting to before I get off on the DeAndre Ayton news. Yes, they signed DeAndre Ayton. I just want to. I got a few things to say because leading up to the playoffs, we had this conversation, bro. The national media outlets, they weren't giving any love to the Thunder, but the Lakers, Luca, LeBron, Austin Reeves, Rui, Jared Vanderbilt, Dorian Finney-Smith, right? Who's now with the Rockets. They were trying to sell us on the Lakers being a legitimate championship contender. I was hearing more love for them than the Thunder, a team that displays greatness and chemistry and consistency, youth from game one to the very last game of the season. And now Lakers fans are trying to talk themselves into believing in a roster that has DeAndre Ayton on it. And just like I said with Kyle Kuzma, I don't think DeAndre Ayton has winning basketball habits. This is a guy who in Portland, if you don't recall the story, look it up. The roads were icy. He didn't want to drive. You're a professional basketball player. You're paid to do a job. I'm sorry. You got to figure it out. Call an Uber, something. Hire a driver. I don't want to hear the excuses, bro. But even beyond that, if we're just going to keep it on the basketball court, just watching him, I noticed it in the final series against the Bucks. He looked funny in the light to me. You go to Portland. I didn't even hear about. I feel like he went to Portland and just disappeared on a bad basketball team, a former top pick, and you couldn't even make a difference in Portland. I got to question your mentality. I got to question your desire to be a competent player in the league, let alone a great player. He'd be competent. And so, yes, DeAndre Ayton is talented. The talent isn't a question mark. But does he elevate the Lakers into a serious conversation? The answer is a big no. Is he better than Jackson Hayes? That's not the question. It's not the question. Is he good enough to elevate this roster into a championship contender over a Houston, over a Denver, over an OKC, heck, over Minnesota,
Dallas.
Dallas, San Antonio, who I think is going to be a force? I don't think he is. I don't think he brings any presence out there. I think he plays a soft brand of basketball. I'm not calling him soft as a player, but as a basketball player. I mean, I'm not calling him soft as a person, but as a basketball player, I just think he plays a soft brand of ball. That's facts. Prove me otherwise. Point to me a time where you say DeAndre Ayton was a force out there. He's anchoring a defense out there. He's putting in full effort out there. Did he even like? Do you recall watching any Portland games on League Pass? Do you recall even seeing DeAndre Ayton? I don't even remember seeing him. I don't recall seeing DeAndre Ayton highlights in Portland. Real talk on Twitter,
Nah,
like you know how you
I can't
see
recall no highlights.
you'll come across Shaden Sharp highlights, Anthony Simons
Yeah,
highlights,
yeah.
Donovan Clingan highlights,
Even
Tumani
I'm about to say, yeah,
like they hooping, they showcasing their talents, and I don't recall seeing a single DeAndre Ayton highlight or a big game on a time like okay he hooped last night. I don't recall seeing that. What is going to change in LA? So you got Luca, you got Austin Reeves, you got Rui, DeAndre, and LeBron James. Defensively, what are we talking about here? You tell me. I don't. Am I missing something?
no, no. I mean, for one, Aiton, we know what Aiton is, man. He was number one pick. Even from when he was drafted off of what his offense brought to the table, right?
Mm.
But in the NBA, his offense is not that elite for the way his attitude towards the game of basketball, which is the reason the Suns got rid of him.
Mm.
He wanted the opportunity to get more shots and more buckets on the Suns. They wanted him, no, we need you to play more defense, focus more on rebounding. He wasn't going. He wasn't feeling it. All right, we'll send you somewhere else. Portland, we see the same concerns. And I get it. This probably is, the best thing out there for them, which is sad. Because, yeah, he is better than Jackson Hayes. But at the end of the day, you have Luka and LeBron on your team. Your goal should be to contend for NBA championships. He's not a center that's going to help you do that. And it's going to be interesting to me, not even from a basketball standpoint, from just a mentality standpoint, because their coach is JJ Redick, a guy who we've seen snapping. He was snapping all year as a coach. He doesn't take no nonsense. He comes from that Duke bloodline. He was a good veteran. He was a good pro, right? He knows what winning basketball looks like. He's played with centers that were focused on defense and protecting the paint and doing their role. I can just see them clashing now. I can just see it now. I already know how it's going to pan out. Like, yeah, we could be wrong, but I really know how it's going to
We're
pan
not
out.
going to be wrong,
It's
bro.
going to end up being a situation where, oh, he's not playing enough defense. Oh, he's getting mad. He's not getting enough touches. And yeah, he'll get his little, pick and roll lobs and dump offs because he's playing with two of the greatest passers that the game has.
Mhm.
But in the end, when Luca and Brown are taking majority of the shots and he's being asked to impact the game in other ways, and he's over there moping on the court, not playing hard on defense, moping on the sidelines, arguing with everybody else, they're going to scapegoat him like they do
Mhm.
everybody else in LA when it doesn't go right. So,
Mhm.
to me, I mean, from just how he seems as a person, he'll enjoy the LA lifestyle,
For
being in
sure.
LA, being in Cali, getting his bread. But on the court, nah, I'm not feeling it for them. Yeah, and like you said, where's the defense coming from? If we want to talk about from just an X and O standpoint, where's the defense coming from? Because
Got
Luka's not
cone. You
playing.
got cones all over
Yeah,
the
it's
place.
cones all. He's a cone. Luka's a cone. Austin Reeves is a cone.
Brian ain't trying to
Brian,
play. Brian ain't trying to play
Brian. I'm about to
defense
say
at
Brian.
40.
I'm not going to call Brian a cone, but he's
He ain't
getting
trying to
older
play
and older. He's
defense.
not trying to play defense. And I saw Julius Randle giving him work in the playoffs this year. And you know how I feel about Julius Randle. And Brian's only getting older. And we don't even know if Brian wants to stay there. We don't even, you know what I mean? Like, we don't even know how committed Brian's going to be.
Yeah,
So it seems like a lot of cone work. Um, I'm not feeling it. That's all I can honestly say.
I'm waiting for December and January. I'm logging on social media and seeing the temperature from Lakers fans because it's the same cycle. They get hype. Oh, we got Jared Vanderbilt. We got Dorian Finney-Smith. Come January, February, talk to me. So you excited now about the Aiton? I don't want to log on a Wednesday night in December and saying, "Oh, how can we package him at the deadline? He has to go." You know how this is going to end. Like JJ Redick's going to be pissed off in the post game media conferences. There's going to be some shade thrown here, some shade thrown
Yep.
there. Like the
Typical
same
LA
talk,
drama.
the same talk with the Lakers at the deadline. How can they improve? What moves?
Yeah.
No, they can't improve, right? Okay, like they have Luca. Okay, the next 10 years you focus on how to build around Luca, but this year, as far as I'm concerned, it's a wrap, bro. LeBron took his money. I'm over the drama with him every offseason too. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm tired of it. He opted in. You got your money. I don't want to hear anything about he wants to play for a contender. Well, guess what? You're not at one. You're not in one in LA. There's not a contender in LA. Clippers or Lakers. There's not a contender in LA. I'm sorry. We got to talk about that Clippers agenda too, that they was pushing to that narrative too. When you going to learn? I love Kawhi. It has nothing to do with him. But there's a certain guy on that roster who I will not believe in when it comes to playoffs. What do we like? Am I on a spaceship, bro? I feel like I'm just talking a foreign language. Like I'm not
we
understanding.
already
Like,
the
like what are
Clippers
we doing here?
the Clippers thing is their owner. He doesn't
He's
know
a great
about
owner.
ball.
Yeah, he
He
doesn't.
doesn't know about ball. He's worried about getting fans in the seats, getting making sure the atmosphere is right. And James Harden, he's a big name, and he still plays basketball at a good level. It's just we know
Come playoff time.
as we know, come playoff time, it's not that. But he's not thinking about that.
Like,
Their owner,
so
we talked about this already with the owners. He's a good owner. Like it looks
yeah,
good on TV. He's sitting, front row. He's hype at the games.
yeah,
He seems like a old man that's happy to see his team succeed. But in the end, he's worried about that bread, man. He don't
yeah,
care
man.
about. And they keep signing these old players like Brook Lopez. I got nothing against you, bro. You still a solid big, but I'm just tired of them seeing these old guys on the team all the
I,
time. It's time. It's a wrap. It's over
I
with.
don't want to next March. I don't want to hear Lakers or Clippers propaganda. I don't care how good the Clippers. I don't care.
Yeah, as
I
long as
really
James
don't.
Harden's there, it's
I
not going
really
to be
don't
nothing.
care. And so LeBron, Rich Paul sending out these statements about he wants to play for a contender. Why would you opt in and then release a statement saying you want to play for a contender? What are we doing here, bro? Am I missing something? Can
Nah, I
can we
don't
just
know.
call out the BS?
I don't know what the. Then they're saying Brian understands if the team wants to trade him, that he'll understand and all that. Man, it's just crazy. Too many politics, too much drama.
As far as I'm concerned, the Lakers are a non-factor, so we don't have to talk about them throughout. I mean, Luca might he'll go off. The Lakers will win games. Luca will have great games. LeBron will have great games. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter when it comes
Yeah,
to winning a championship. No. All right. I'm glad we got that out the way. Now we start in the Atlantic Division, our State of the Team series. We're gonna start at the home base. Our 76ers, bro. Obviously, we drafted VJ Edgecombe, Janai Broom, Trenton Watford was a free agent addition. Waiting on the Quentin Grimes re-signing. I don't know what's going on with that, but for me, it's simple. I'm tired of talking about this storyline with the Sixers, but it must be said: is Joel Embiid going to be healthy? Will Paul George not look like he's washed? And can he create separation? Can he be a threat out there? If the answers are no, this team is going nowhere. My viewpoint in this situation is I don't care about Joel Embiid or Paul George at this point. I don't care. It's about VJ, Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, Justin Edwards. If Quentin Grimes is here, it's about him. It's about developing these younger guys, seeing how these guys work together, building up this backcourt, and how we can build a actual system of developing talent and growing from within and relying on consistency and guys who want to work hard, guys who are passionate about the game. That's my thought process. I'm gonna keep it short and simple. I'm gonna keep it short and simple with this squad, bro. I'm done. I'm over it.
Yeah, the same thing with us too. It's sad because like I said about the Bucks, the East is open, but we always have the biggest concern is Embiid going to be healthy, and if he and like what level of play is he going to give us when he comes back? Paul George, I already spoke my piece on him. I wish he was gone. Same way they got Dame out of here to get somebody. I wish we could just let go of PG and go get somebody, man. That's how I honestly feel. He's gonna have to show me, and it's sad because we didn't even see that team play that much together, like Embiid, Maxey, and
It was
PJ.
doomed from the
But
start.
but to me, it's like PG doesn't want to be here. I keep telling people that he's only here because the Clippers didn't give him the money he wanted. Let's be
Mm-mm.
real. He didn't want to leave his hometown to come all the way across the country to come to Philly. I don't care what he says on that podcast. I don't care who he sits down with. He talked to Gilly, whoever he wants to talk to. He doesn't want to be here, bro. He's here by choice. We seen it. We seen it in the video during the parade celebration. He's riding. Why are you riding through the parade? You look dumb. What are you doing? That was crazy. Anyway, but that's
Yeah.
what I'm just saying. He don't want to be here, and it's cool, you know. But even if he do want to be here, it's like PG, bro. You're just like Harden in the playoffs. We've seen it too many times. Like, it's nothing. I don't care. But I am
And
excited. Like the sad part is we have so much young talent on this team,
I'm
man.
excited about the
Maxey,
guard. We actually got good guard play
McCain.
now. Yeah.
We're excited to see what Edgecombe brings. And
Yeah.
Justin Edwards is nice. Like if it was
Yeah.
up to
He's
me, if I was
nice.
the GM, bro,
He's
PG would
nice.
be gone. We'd be starting Justin Edwards, and I would trade for like another like a forward that can play D3,
Mm-hmm.
versatile, handle the ball a little bit. That's what I would do. But I know they're
Yeah.
not. Daryl Morey, he's one of those guys too. He believes in the stars,
Fantasy
all these
GM.
stars. Yeah, but your fantasy GM. But the Pacers just showed you, bro. You don't need all these stars. Like yes, you need talent, but you need dogs, man.
Yeah.
PG's not that. You know what I mean? So like I said, I hope we get to see everybody healthy at least just to see what it could be. But like you said, it's a big if, especially with Embiid. He's only getting older, so who knows, man. But I do
Yeah.
I do want to see all the young guys get to a bucket. I want to see them, keep expanding on their game. So
Oh yeah.
that,
Like,
that's all I can say.
look, if Embiid comes back healthy and rocking out, of course I'm going to be excited. If Paul George actually shows that he wants to be here and wants to hoop, I'm going to be excited. But for me, I'm looking at the development of Jared McCain coming back from an injury, but he was the rookie of the year last year if it wasn't for the
Yeah,
injury. I'm
yeah,
looking to see how Therese Maxey evolves and improves from last year. I'm looking at VJ Edgecombe. I'm just excited to see him. I'm excited. I'm glad that we went with him. I'm glad that he's the pick because he brings some passion. He brings the defensive energy and the willingness to play defense, which is what McCain and Maxey need as far as a guy that can help out on that end. And his offensive game, I think, look, you know what pisses me off, bro? And the Sixers fans, not all of them, but some of them, who compare him to the Jaden Springer or a Zaire Smith, which I highly disagree. Because when I watched Jaden Springer, when I watched Zaire Smith, I didn't like those picks at all. Or,
right.
well, we had Mikal Bridges to we trade. That's a whole other story. Whatever. I was pissed off that we traded Mikal for Zaire. I was pissed off at the Jaden Springer pick. I watch college basketball. Even though guys aren't fully finished products offensively, you can tell when guys have a solid foundation with the ball. Jaden Springer and Zaire Smith, to me, they were never going to have a high offensive ceiling. The foundation was not there. I watch VJ. He's raw, but the ability he's fluid with his movements. His shot isn't broke. He can handle the rock a little bit. He can attack. Like I saw enough offensively at Baylor to say, okay, there's a foundation there with the athleticism and defensive ability. If he continues to refine his game, his offensive game, and gets reps and grows in confidence, he could be a really great two-way player. And so you're doing him a disservice by writing him off as just another athletic guy when he is not Jaden Springer. He is not Zaire Smith. It's disrespectful. Just stop it. Stop it. I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, he's nothing like those guys. His mechanics alone are better than him. Even
Yeah.
if you just watch, even if you never watch college basketball, right? And I showed you both of their highlight tapes. If I showed you a VJ Edgecombe highlight tape and the Zaire Smith and Jaden Springer highlight tape, Zaire Smith and Jaden Springer, half of their highlight tapes is fast break alley oops and dunks.
Yep.
VJ, we see him catching and shooting. We see him creating off the dribble. We see some of the transition stuff too, but even his athleticism stands out more. And like to me, it's like I look at the Thompson twins. Their jumpers coming into the league or broke. I mean, realistically, they're still not good 3 point shooters. But
Right.
VJ shot, if you watch his shot, it looks better than theirs. His form looks better than theirs. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I just feel like I get it at Sixers fans because we have some PTSD with players with broken shots from Ben to Fultz and his injury and Zaire Smith and Jerry. Like I understand it. I
Yeah.
understand wanting to get the ace belly. It's the flashy pick. Lanky kid can create his own shot, but you got to realize, man, like we're a team that's in a winning position. Like we're trying to be in a winning position. We need people that are going to buy in. And VJ, I feel like he embodies what the fans loving a player from energy. Like the fans love Kelly Oubre, bro, and it's because he gives out effort. VJ is going to be that same type of player and could possibly be better, should be better, based off where he was, picked and what his projection is. So I think just give it some time, just let him work, let him develop, and I think he'll be an impact player right away just off his defense and athleticism alone.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch the young guys. That's we actually got a nice rotation of guards, and I'm excited about that. That's what we've been missing over the last few years, like multiple guys that can create, can score, be threats, and I'm excited about that. So I will be excited about that. Moving on to the Knicks, reports say they have a new coach finally. It took them long enough. They fired Thibs after having one of the best years in forever for that franchise, and they have Mike Brown, really good coach, multiple time coach of the year, did a great job in Sacramento. And Sacramento does what Sacramento does. They make a head scratching moves. They let him go. But I look at the Kings as a questionable franchise, period. So I don't look at Mike Brown. Mike Brown worked miracles with that franchise as far as I'm concerned. So there's that. I like their new free agent additions. Jordan Clarkson and Gerson Yabusele, former Sixer, who had a great year for us. He bet on himself, had a great year. He got his free agent contract, so salute to you. I love these additions because it gives another element of offensive power off the bench for the Knicks. And so for me, the starting five, we know what the starting five is. We know what they bring to the table, but having that experience last year in the playoffs, having that chemistry down, but bringing in guys like a Clarkson and Yabusele, I think that makes them more formidable offensively. And so you're not relying so much on a Jalen Brunson. Jordan Clarkson, he's been in Utah for a minute, but people don't realize he can light it up. And so if you get that microwave type score off the bench in New York, he's going to be a hit at the Garden. And so I think the Knicks should be excited about this season. And with the East being wide open, they're a viable threat to win the East for sure.
Yeah, that's a If you ask me, like just we were talking about just today, they should be the favorites to make it out. And
Hmm.
like you said, those are good moves all across the board from coach addition to Jordan Clarkson. That's what they're missing. And Gershon,
Hmm.
they're missing. They were missing that bench because I was watching them throw Landry Shamet out there, man. Like that was crazy. That's a huge upgrade to their bench. So they just got to stay healthy. Um, you know, I just feel like they're going to be in a prime position to make it out. This is the year for them. If everything goes to plan, if they perform, that's what it
Yeah.
should be.
Pretty easy conversation with the Knicks. Now we go to the Celtics. Complicated situation they have, right? So as soon as Jason Tatum goes down in the playoff game against the Knicks, you can tell like, okay, is it the Achilles? And it was the Achilles. So you're automatically thinking, okay, next year, a lot, you felt that something was going to change. A lot was going to change for this team, right? Not only the Tatum injury, but the second apron conversation, right? And trying to avoid the penalties that come with that. And so this was an expensive roster. Tatum, Jalen Brown, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday. They had to figure something out, especially now with Tatum being hurt. You had a built-in reason as to why, okay, we cannot justify having this expensive roster when Jason Tatum is going to be out, if not all, for most of the year. We might not even be in contention for a championship. So we got to figure it out, right? And so, did you hear the noise in the background?
Yeah.
Hold on, what's happening? Okay, I might have to switch. I'm gonna switch
All
spots because they tripping out here. And hold on for a second. This is
right.
all live, folks. We're recording this live, but I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna keep talking as I'm walking because I don't know what's popping off right here. Uh, but yeah, so you have a reason as to why we have to speed up this process of not wasting time, right? So one thing about Brad Stevens is he doesn't play around when it comes to making moves, and I love it because he moves in silence. Anytime there's a Celtics move, we never hear about it, right? Like all these other teams and moves, like there's rumors swirling around, but Brad Stevens, like the Drew Holiday fan, I didn't even think about Anthony Simons. I didn't even think that was even like a thing that would happen. Chris Porzingis to the Hawks was like, oh, we knew that Holiday, Derek White, Porzingis, these were guys that were like sort of, being talked about. But the fact that he was able to flip a Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons to me was a win-win situation because you get off the Holiday contract, who's getting older. You get a young guy in Simons who is on a 1 year deal. That's a valuable contract if you want to move him again at the deadline. But if he balls out this year, he's still a young enough guy that he matches the timeline of a Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, right? And so for the Celtics, for me, yes, it's unfortunate, and we hope JT comes back and is able to be himself again. But they got their championship, right? They did get that. But for me, two things. I still think though they will be a respectable team in the East. You still got Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Anthony Simons if he remains to be if he's still on the team throughout the season. You got some young guys who will have a chance to see if they can do something in the league. Jordan Walsh, J.D. Davidson, Baylor Shireman, their first round pick, um, Hugo Gonzalez. They signed Josh Minot from Minnesota, who I think has a lot of potential. They added Luca Garza, George Niang, who knows what they can do in this lineup, but I think this is an opportunity for the younger guys to sort of grow and develop in their roles. And so if a Jason Tatum does come back, not just this season, but the season afterwards, how much better are the Celtics by having those younger guys improve and gain confidence in this league? Because they weren't really getting any playing time, to be honest with you, right? And so um, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, they're still young enough to where they can wait a couple years for these young guys to sort of catch up and be ready to compete for a championship. And so on the flip side too, though, it's not a bad year to be down. And there's a kid from Boston, AJ DeBanta, who's playing for BYU. If you want to talk about fixing draft lotteries and figure if you're into that conspiracy, hey, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So I think the Celtics are in a tough situation, obviously because of Tatum, but I think the future outlook isn't as bleak as people may think. So that's my thought process for the Celtics. Obviously, you still have some vets, some champions, but you have young guys who can really get some playing time and see what they can do. The front court is the major weakness because they've lost Luke Cornett. They probably will lose Al Horford. We'll see what happens. They've lost Porzingis, and so the front court will be a weakness. But outside of that, this is a year to find out which young guys can be contributors to a championship run again. I still think they have a second win. I think Tatum and Brown they have another run in them. So that's my outlook for them.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is they're both still young. They're both still, in their prime, so they'll be fine.
Mm,
And the main thing about all of this is I trust their management. I trust their front office.
mm,
To me, it seems like Boston's always been one step ahead.
mm-hmm.
No matter what the trend is in the league, no matter what players like them getting Derek White for Josh Richardson in second.
Crazy.
That's elite. That's elite, like talent evaluation. That's elite scouting. Just across the league, they know ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to. So, them trading for Anthony Simons is a perfect. It's perfect for Anthony too because we get to see him actually play potentially meaningful basketball
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to play in a system, playing with winning basketball players. So he's going to get some good coaching. So that's good for him. I just think, if you're a Boston fan, I wouldn't be too concerned. Like, yeah, this year is going to be a wash, of course. You were without your best player. But at the end of the day, like, you got to trust your management. It's a team that, they've been, in the mix for the past few years because they've hit in free agency. They hit through trades. They hit in the drafts. So I just think trust Brad Stevens, trust the front office that they know what they're doing, and I think everything will pan out for them. So it'd be interesting to see what moves they make. Not only this upcoming season, but throughout the summer and next season too. So that's all I have to say for them.
Funny thing enough, Dame, the Celtics were a team mentioned as far as the teams that might be interested in Dame.
Yeah,
I mentioned the front court being an issue. Let's say Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard. play at their peak. And it's midseason. Dame is getting ready for a comeback. He wants to come back, halfway point of the season. And the Celtics are a top four team in the Eastern Conference. Some of these young
Facts.
guys are better than what we thought. Maybe, Xavier Tillman, Neemias Queta, Luka Garza. Maybe the front court is, somehow they're playing their role. They're defending, they're rebounding, just being a presence. If the Celtics get a 70% Dame, can they win a series in the Eastern Conference? Can they?
True. Well, with how open the East is going to be, if they're looking good, yeah, anything's possible.
So,
East is open, so
it's
yeah,
not all bleak. I think they're playing with house money this year, honestly.
yeah,
Because if you don't win, nobody's gonna fault you,
right.
right? And so for me, this is a for a team that won a championship, for a team that is dealing with a major injury to its best player, to a team that had a very expensive roster and had made quick moves to, you know, restructure their financial situation. Brad Stevens did a pretty good job with where they're at. They own their first round pick next year. That's another trade capital or a piece that they want to keep depending on how the season goes, right? So I think this year for the Celtics and their fans, I think you look forward to seeing these young guys that I mentioned develop and seeing, as we saw in this playoffs, who thought the Pacers would have made the championship, right? Like, who would have thought, right? So
Right.
you just never know how the season will go. Injuries happen every year, unfortunately. So you just never know. And Jaylen Brown, Derek White, like I said, Peyton Pritchard, these are champions. These are guys who are going to compete and still want to prove that they're one of the best players in the league. They're going to compete. They're not going to just fall back and just accept losing, right? And so I wouldn't write off the Celtics as just a team that's going to be competing for a play-in. Not in the Eastern Conference. I still think they're a respectable team, and you got to show up to play them. Moving on down the Atlantic Division, a team that I am totally confused about, bro, the Toronto Raptors. I look at their lineup and I see talented players: Emmanuel Quickly, Brandon Ingram, R.J. Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Grady Dick. They got one of my favorite rookies that I'm intrigued by his game, Colin Murray Boyce from South Carolina. I'm intrigued to see how his game evolves into the next level. I'm kind of confused at what they're building and the direction they're going because they have talented pieces, but the question remains for me: is Scotty Barnes that guy to take you to the top? And I haven't seen it yet on a consistent basis. That is my question with Toronto. Can they make a playoff run this year? Obviously they can. But outside of that, long term, is this roster is it a roster that's developing into a championship contender? And I have a problem seeing that just yet. I got to see it. Like, we know these guys are talented, but I got to see how Brandon Ingram, meshes with RJ Barrett. I just got to see how I got to see how it works. I have a problem seeing the vision right now.
I think the thing for the Raptors is one, like you said, they have to show it, and that just comes with winning in the regular season. They have to actually put themselves in position to be in the playoffs, which we keep saying, which is a prime year because the East is going to be open. They have the talent to make it. Like if you told me the best 8 teams on paper, I feel
Mm.
like they would be, in that mix. But to me, it's kind of like I don't like
Is
who do
is
guys do guys know their place on this team? Do they know their role? Because to me, it seems like a bunch of young guys that all feel like they should be the guy. That's just from the outside looking in. Because we have Scotty Barnes, who he was drafted by the team. He made an All Star, on that team. He's a very talented player. Then we got a guy like Brandon Ingram, who's he's a bucket. He's a bucket, and he's been known for scoring and being the guy on the Pelicans. Then you got R.J. Barrett, who highly touted college guy. He came into the Knicks where he wasn't the guy, but now he's on a team with other young players and he's playing for his home country. So he may feel like he's good enough. He might feel like he's just as good as Brandon Ingram and Scotty. And you got a guy like Emmanuel Quickly who, saying like RJ Barrett, he wasn't the guy, but we know he has potential to be a very good player. To me, it just seemed like a mix of players that are young, and I feel like they got to know their role. Because if you put them, if everybody bought into the role on that team, just from a basketball standpoint, they could be pretty good. Like you got Scotty Barnes, who could be your all around guy, rebound, defend, be a little floor general. You got Brandon Ingram, who could be your go to guy for a bucket. R.J. Barrett, if he bought into the 3-and-D role. Emmanuel Quickly for the spark. But to me, it's like, are these guys buying into the role? I can't see it. And then it's just like we got to see them actually play. Like we got to
I'm
see them execute all of this. So I
Yeah,
don't
like
know.
it's just a mix of talented players, but that doesn't always mean it's going to mean wins and success. And
Right.
is Ingram your two guard? Is he a two guard?
I mean, in this era, he could be. I mean, but
I
he
mean,
has to shoot the three at a better clip. That's my only
that's what I'm
concern.
saying. I don't. RJ Barrett isn't a sharpshooter.
Right.
I'm just trying to understand what they're trying to do here. Like,
Yeah. And
I don't.
I guess my question, who's the center? Because is Pirtle is he
It's
out or did
Pirtle.
they
Yeah,
extend him? They
he's back.
extended?
I
All right,
think he's
well,
back. He's
okay.
back.
So
I
I mean that's what I'm
just
saying. On paper, like it looks cool, but they just gotta execute it. That's my opinion.
I
They gotta go
don't
out there and play.
hit. Are they dynamic enough offensively to really be a serious threat? And what I mean
Right.
by that is Ingram and Barrett. We know they're talented players, but my thing with Ingram has always been since coming out of Duke is he's been to me he's robotic as a basket, like not in the sense of he's awkward, but I feel like there's a difference between, and they had the KD comparisons when he came out, which is a lazy comparison. Not every 6'10" guy who can score is KD, right? There's only one. But there's a difference between a guy who can just get easy offense and there's just a smoothness to it. With Ingram, it's sort of, I don't know if it's like too slow. It's just something off about it when I watch it that I just have a hard time fully buying into it. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
talented. I'm
I
not
think
questioning that, but
my thing about Ingram is like off the ball, he's not that effective from what we've seen throughout his
if he's
career. I
not
think that's
if he
what it
doesn't have
is.
the ball, what is his impact on the
Right.
floor?
Right. Like we see a guy like KD, we see he don't need the ball to still drop 30 on you. He could drop 30 off of all catch and shoots
Right.
and one dribble pull up. Like he don't need to do too many moves. That's what it comes down to. It's like how is he going to really affect the team outside when the ball's not in his hand?
And and what's the mindset of these guys, right? What's the
Right.
mindset of an Ingram, a mindset of a Barrett, a mindset of a Barnes? I got to see them be actually like be willing to commit to winning and like I have a lot of questions about the mindset of these guys that they're relying on. I do. I don't question Quickly's mindset, but I have to question some of these guys that they're relying on. Like, okay, you've been in the league for a while, like some time now. Where's the growth in your games and in evolving and making others better? Are these guys making others better on this team? Can they mesh together? That's the question that I have. That's the biggest question for the Raptors. And if they go through this year in the East that we keep saying is wide open, if they're a playing team, then what do we talk like? If is that their ceiling? I think it's fair to say yes. If they're a
Right.
playing team this year in the Eastern Conference and there's no injuries, what are we doing here?
It's time to
What
pack
are
it
we
in.
actually doing?
Yeah.
That's my question. And then finally, the team that is getting destroyed by most people that I'm seeing talk about them, the Brooklyn Nets. I have a different take on the Nets. Surprisingly, I had some time to think about it and just sit on it. People are criticizing, and yes, I get it. The 5 first-round picks: Jaeger Dimon, Drake Powell, Ben Saraf, Nolan Troye, Danny Wolf. Well, I like this game in Michigan, by the way. I get it. People make fun of them. I guess they were trying to move up in the draft. Maybe they wanted an ace Billy. It didn't happen. But you're talking about it as if the Nets were going to compete for a playoff spot this year anyway. They were allowed to rebound next year and the year after. Let's just like so. I cannot waste energy criticizing a Brooklyn Nets franchise that is honestly 4 years away from even being serious contenders, if or as far as for a playoff spot, right? And so I look at these 5 first-round picks. People can say they know he's not gonna work. He's gonna be a bust. What if two of these guys turn out to be really good? Jaeger Dimon, a Danny Wolf, a Drake Powell. Like who knows who these guys might turn into? Jaeger Dimon was a highly touted freshman prospect, a 6'9" point guard. And yeah, they got a lot of guys who can handle it, who can dish it off. In today's game, you need multiple guys who can do that, right? And so let's say two or three of these guys hit and they're solid, legitimate rotational players. Let's say you're back in the lottery. Take a look at the 2026 draft class. Darren Peterson, got the Boozer twin, the Bansa. You got some guys in that draft class. You add that to that mix. okay, now we might be building something. We have our rotational guys. We have our guys who know their roles. We're adding a potential franchise player next year, and we'll see what happens. And so I'm not going to totally punish the Brooklyn Nets for their draft night maneuvering because at the end of the day, these are 19-year-old kids, 18, 20. Like, we don't know how they're going to develop. In Brooklyn, they're going to get a chance to develop and make as many mistakes as possible because who else is on that roster, right? Like, you got Cam Thomas, obviously. They got Michael Porter Jr., Terrence Mann. But I would hope next year is all about giving these guys an opportunity to play through mistakes and seeing who's who. And so that's my take. Like, this isn't a Nets squad. This draft wasn't their chance at the playoffs in the East wasn't riding on this draft. And I don't think unless you're getting a Cooper Flag or a Dylan Harper, even if you got an Ace Bailey, my stance on the Nets is still the same, if that makes sense. That's
Yeah,
my take. I'm not going to criticize the Nets. I'm excited to see some of these young guys, how like Yegor Dimon, Ben Saraf, Danny Wolf, Nolan Traore, Drake Powell from UNC. Salute. If two of these guys hit, it's a whole different conversation.
yeah, I think the fans, they always overreact when it comes to draft time. The reality is, you never know who's really going to be good and who's
Hmm.
not. We have our projections and our predictions as people that watch them play in college and watch their highlights, stuff like that. But you never really know who's going to pan out. And if you look at the blueprint of what these teams are doing, the draft is really the best way to build your team through a salary cap standpoint and just from a standpoint of creating a culture. You get a whole bunch of young guys in under a regime of management and coaching, get them to all buy into the same culture. Then you could be like an OKC when that time comes, and
Hmm.
they're a little battle tested. Now they have to rely on each other. That's cool. And like you said, we don't know who's going to pan out, who's not going to pan out. It's going to be interesting to see. That's all you can really say as a Nets fan. Like, it's like, bro, just sit back and enjoy the ride. I wouldn't be getting mad. What are we getting mad for? You know what I mean? Like, I would be excited to see some of these young guys who see who's going to pan out for y'all. You guys need a new face instead of you guys trying to go out and get free agents and trades every year. Y'all should be happy that y'all got y'all picks back. I remember the days when the Nets didn't have no picks. Like, y'all should
Exactly.
be glad. Like, that's just how I
Exactly.
look at it. And yeah, it is
Exactly.
crazy y'all didn't end up getting the Cooper Flag, sweepstakes and all that. But
Yeah.
you'll have another try again next year, like you said.
And
I think
probably the
it'll
year
all work
after, to
out.
be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah, it'll all work out,
Like,
how it's supposed to, man. I just
like,
gotta, let it play its course.
we talk about, the Indiana Pacers and OKC Thunder and their style of play and the players that they have, but look at that roster. You have undrafted guys, second round picks. Alex Caruso and Lou Dort were undrafted. I'm not saying these guys will develop into those type of players, but if 5 years from now they land in the next two draft classes, they land their top two players, they land their Jalen Williams or NSGA, and these guys have grown, they've developed their confidence, they found their way in the league. If 3 out of 5 of these guys develop into premier role players in this league, and you have your two franchise players in the next couple draft class, and they're competing for an Eastern Conference championship in 5 years, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't talk like when I first saw the Nets, I'm like, yeah, like what are they doing? They I guess they were trying to trade up and they flopped, and yeah, they're an easy target right now. But when you really take a step back, these are the Brooklyn Nets. This wasn't, a team that was trying to compete for a playoff spot next year or the year after. This is a team that's trying to get talent, develop that talent, and build from there. And to me, this is what they did. And these aren't bums. I find it highly disrespectful that we're writing off a Yegor Dimon or a Danny Wolf. Like come on, like these guys are talented players. Like they belong at this level. They belong, like they deserved to be first round draft picks. And so give these guys an opportunity. And I think you may be surprised at what some of these guys might be able to do in summer league. Watch in summer league is if Danny Wolf or Demon or Powell show off, get their games off. A lot of Nets fans and not a lot of people who cover the game are going to be turning back around and be like, well, maybe
Mhm.
we miscalculated these guys, right? And so give these guys an opportunity. I kind of see what the Nets might be doing, and I'm excited to see in the next few years, if they do it right, what this roster could be. But all I'm saying is you never know what these draft picks can turn into. You never know. We see it all the time, all across the draft board. Guys who are picked top 5 never pan out. Guys who were picked at the bottom of the first round, early second round, they turn out to be legitimate basketball players, sometimes all stars, sometimes Hall of Famers. So I'm never going to write off a guy just because most people in media are trashing them. Let's take a step back. Let's see what they do, and let's reassess. That is it. Because out of five of those picks, one of those guys got to hit, right? Like one of those
Yeah,
guys,
somebody's gonna
somebody
hit.
has to hit, right? I'm excited about Demon for sure. I'm excited to see how Danny Wolf transitions, how that game translates to the league. So Drake Powell, I'm shocked watching Drake Powell throughout the year. I didn't see him as a first round pick, but he had a great combine, and maybe he can find a role at the next level as a 3-and-D guy. We'll see, but they'll get all the opportunity in the world. So um, that's it for another edition of Marshall Time. We'll have another division, state of the division next week, next episode. Thank you guys for watching us. Long overdue, but we back. We got summer league starting this week too, bro. So we have a lot more to talk about. I'm excited to see those Sixers compete, going for a summer league championship. That roster is nice. I'm excited to see VJ. It's going to be lit. So I'm excited. We'll see y'all next time.
All right, peace out.
All right.